Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zach Smith, and today I thought I'd show you guys how to make a one-way email client in C#. I say one-way because we'll only be able to send emails, but it's still pretty nifty. Basically, when we're done, it will look like this. This is one I made earlier. It's basically, this is your login credentials, login, and this is where you will compose your email with attachments. So yeah, let's get started. Let's see, first we're going to come down here and we're going to open up a new project. As soon as it loads, we'll get started. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay. So let's see, we have come here, create a new project, and we look for WPF application. This is just the GUI, the newest GUI, the most awesome that C# has made so far. And we're going to call this one-way email client. And what pops up when it loads is your kind of GUI editor. You can come over here and drag and drop a bunch of tools and controls and yada yada. We'll get back to that in a later tutorial. First, what I want to do is go over the core functionality of this program, which will be the emailer, or the class that will actually handle the emails. So what you do is come over here to your project, right-click, Add, and Class. Make sure it's selected, yada yada, and we're just going to call it emailer. So now that we've got this, what I like to do sometimes is just make the signatures of the method that I'm going to write, just to kind of give me an idea of what I'm looking at, what needs to be done, and all that. So first what we're going to do is we're going to have a public static string send message. And what this is going to take in is a string from, this is the from email address, the to email address, the subject of the email, the body of the email, and because it is an email and you need credentials, what we're going to do is we're going to send in a password. And we have that. Secondly, we're going to have a public static string send message with attachments. This will have almost the exact same parameters. String subject, string body, string password, and finally we have an array list of attachments. As you can see, the array list is generic right now. It doesn't have a type listed to it, and that is on purpose. It's so you can have any sort of attachments to it and it won't really care. The next and final method for this class we're going to have is static bool is valid email. It's going to take in an email, and what this is going to do is return whether or not the email being passed in is in a valid format. I'm sure you guys all know what a valid email format is. It is your email address, the @ sign, and then the domain, such as gmail.com, yahoo.com, etc., etc. To do this, what we're going to do is we're going to match it against a regular expression. The regular expression we're going to have, I actually copied and I'm going to paste it here. It's just easier, that way I don't have to remember all this mumbo jumbo. If you want, you can pause the video and copy that down real quick. It's a very simple way to just check to see if it is, in fact, at least a decently formatted email address. That's pretty much it for that method, so we're just not going to worry about it for the rest of the time in this tutorial. So first, in our send message, we're going to start here. And what we're going to do is, first we're going to check to see if, is valid email to. This is basically checking to see if the email we're sending to is a valid email address. And if it's not, we should probably add that over here. If it's not, we're going to return string.format. The reason why these both return strings is because they're pretty much just for confirmation messages. Otherwise, we're not really going to know if the mail was sent. So this will tell us if it was or wasn't. Basically, here we have string.format. Let's just add our endings here. And what we're going to say is that is not a valid email address. And in here we just have 2. I like to use string.format for the reason that it just looks cleaner than using concatenation, like the plus sign. But however you want to do it is fine. Really doesn't make a difference. So if it is a valid email, then we can move on. What we're going to do is we're going to make a new mail message, and I just like to call it message. New mail message. And if you see right here, the parameters for this take in exactly what's being passed into this method, which is perfect. So we can actually just throw those straight down. And yeah, done and done. Let's see. What we have to do now, SMTP client. I like to, the SMTP client, that's tricky, is basically just what sends the message. The message is obviously, the mail message is obviously the message. The SMTP client is what actually does the sending. So we're going to have a client. We're going to set it equal to a new SMTP client. And it's looking for a host and a port. For today's purposes, what we're going to use is we're just going to use Gmails. If I remember right, using this host, you can only use Gmail accounts. If you want to learn how to use other accounts, that's fine, but for today's purposes, they're not important. The port they use is 587. Another thing we have to add in here is enable SSL, which determines if we'll use secure socket layer for encryption. And we're going to do that just, for added security. And then we're also going to have to add credentials. Otherwise, going through Gmail, it's going to block it because you're not logged in, basically. I mean, you can't send an email without logging in. So basically what we're going to do is have new network credentials, and it's looking for a username and a password. The username is going to be from, because that's who you are, and the password is your password. Simple enough. And then what we're going to do, client.send message. And this is actually what sends it over the interwebs. Last thing we have to do is return a new string that says that the mail was sent successfully. The way we're going to do this is we're going to say that the message to that was sent on, we're going to have 2, and then we're going to have datetime dot now dot toString, and then here we're going to have culture info, come on, there we go, dot invariant culture. This basically says that it doesn't matter what region you're in, it's going to try and match it as close to the computer system's time, date, format, all that. So this will just make it so it's a little bit more versatile. So, and that's always nice. And so, yeah. As far as sending a message without attachments, this is pretty much all you need. So now we can move on to sending it with attachments. Basically, it's almost the exact same thing as above, but we're going to retype it. 1 for practice, for memorization, so you guys understand it, and 2 is because, that's just a better way to learn rather than just copy-paste and then you don't get anything out of it. So what we're going to do is check to see if it's a valid email, otherwise return string.format. Oh my goodness, sorry. Is not a valid email address. And of course, again, we put 2. Once that passes, then we can make another mail message. Again, we can send in from to subject body. And then here's the part that is different from the method above. What we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to for each over attachments. This has to be a string because, as you can see here, because ArrayList has no type to it, the string is basically pointing to a path. And if it's not a string, it doesn't know what it is, and it won't be able to add it later. I'm just going to call this item because it's shorter, nicer to read, yada yada. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to say attachment attach, I guess, equals new attachment. And what it's looking for is a file name, which is item. And it's actually looking for a media type. The media type we're going to use is media types, I believe that's it, media type names, excuse me, dot application dot octet. What octet says, actually we'll bring it up for you, specifies that the application data is not interpreted. As you can see here, we have PDF, RTF, SOAP, and ZIP. Octet is basically saying that there's no file extension associated with it. I mean, obviously there is one, but it doesn't care what kind it is. So then what we say here is we're going to say message.attachments.add attach. And so now for every attachment that goes into the message, it will now add them to the message. And then we're going to add the same thing for the client. And it's the same thing, smtp.gmail.com, port 587. Let's just add the object initializer here. This is from and password. Just to let you guys know, when I say an object initializer, this is what I'm talking about. This is effectively the same thing as if I were to come down here and say client.enableSSL. The biggest difference that, at least for me, this looks cleaner. It looks a lot more organized. So, I mean, it's just easier to read. I mean, it's personal preference, but this is how I do it. So yeah, down here, we're just going to say client.send, throw it the message, and then we're going to turn the confirmation message saying that the message to was sent on here. We're going to say to, and datetime.now.toString and cultureinfo.invariantCulture. So, as you can see, this concludes the emailer class, which handles all of the sending of the emails. Basically the core functionality of the program. Thanks for watching, and tune in for the next episode, I guess. Bye.